Most people who've been close to you have probably come up with an explanation. They call it coldness. They call it commitment issues. They say you're not ready, that you're damaged, that something in you resists what other people seem to handle easily. And on the surface, that explanation seems to fit. Things feel good, someone gets close, and then, almost like clockwork, something in you shifts. The texts slow down. The warmth you genuinely felt starts to feel dangerous somehow. The person standing in front of you, offering something real, suddenly feels like too much, and you've probably told yourself the same story they tell about you, that something is wrong with you, that you're broken in some quiet, specific way. But psychology has been looking closer, and what it found doesn't look like brokenness at all. Here's what's strange. You are not unfeeling. You may actually be one of the most feeling people you know. You notice everything. You care deeply. You want connection, sometimes more than you'd ever admit out loud. And yet, the moment that connection becomes real, something older takes over. Not a thought, not a choice, a reflex. Something that moves faster than your intentions, and that changes everything about how we understand what's happening inside you. Attachment researchers have spent decades studying how the earliest relationships of our lives create something like a template, an invisible map the brain uses to navigate closeness for the rest of our lives. When the people who were supposed to be safe were instead unpredictable, absent, or overwhelming, your developing mind made a calculation. Not in words, in wiring. Closeness equals risk, and risk requires a strategy. The strategy it found was distance. But here's where it becomes interesting, because what looks like a fear of intimacy is often something far more specific. It isn't that you don't want closeness, it's that closeness, once it becomes real, activates the same system that was built to protect you long ago. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between the past and the present. It doesn't know that this person is different. It only knows that something important is now at stake, and the last time something important was at stake, it hurt. So your body responds. Heart rate rises. The thinking part of your brain partially goes offline, and before any conscious decision is made, the pulling away has already begun. What looks like rejection is often your nervous system doing the only thing it ever learned to do when love got close enough to lose. And this is the part most people never reach, because we stop at the behavior. You withdraw, and everyone, including you, tells a story about what that means, about your capacity for love, about your intentions, about what you're capable of. But the behavior is not the message. The behavior is the protection. And protections don't form around things you don't care about. They form around the things you care about so much that losing them became unthinkable before you ever had the words to say so. There is something in you that learned, not consciously, but deeply, that needing someone is the most dangerous thing in the world. Not because you don't feel, but because you feel so much that the possibility of losing it became unbearable long before you understood what was happening. So you leave first. You create distance before distance can be created for you. You protect the connection by never fully entering it. You don't push people away because you feel too little. You push them away because you feel too much, and no one ever showed you that it was safe to stay. That changes the question entirely. Not, why can't I let people in? But, what did I learn about what happens when I do? The behavior that looks like withdrawal is, in its own quiet way, a form of loyalty to an old wound that never had a chance to heal in the open. You weren't broken. You were protecting something tender, the only way you knew how. And understanding that won't undo every wall overnight. But it might be the first time you've seen yourself clearly, not as someone who is too much or not enough, but as someone who learned to survive, and maybe, slowly, can learn something new.